What's up, guys? So here we are back at it. Some people are saying that the mic is a little quiet on my headset. Oops. So I guess we'll kind of use this live stream to try to dial that in if we can. I have the volume on my headphone and microphone up, and I have the game volume down, so hopefully that helps. So, we opened up a pretty big chunk in this field. We have our hired worker over here. And we'll pick off. We'll empty him out as we go back. Let me get my iPad over here so I can see what you guys are saying. Because I only run a single monitor on the computer, so I can't really multitask very much. Alright, so we'll... Kern. So you guys will have to let me know in the chat here how the volume is. They're saying like, when I'm outside the cab, it's kind of hard to hear, but when I'm inside, it's fine. But nothing I could do about that, I don't think. So I turned down the game volume to see if that's going to increase the mic volume, because the mic is all the way up. How does the combine harvest at 7 miles an hour? I'm not sure. The combine is a mod, but the head is the in-game head. But I'm also running with the MR engine and MR gameplay, so that might kind of trump the in-game. Basically, if it has enough power to run, it will run. So our worker is kind of missing some of the corn here. Alright, so we'll run back to the semi. Dump the load off. Switching to the hopper bottom was a good idea. Works a lot better than that end dump. That would have just been a disaster. So I think after we're done harvesting this season, we're gonna actually trade in the Sprint. It's just glitching out too much. Um, being Giants, you know, DLC content's pretty disappointing. So what we'll probably end up doing is either we'll probably end up getting the Kinsey. Although the Kinsey isn't as nice of a model, I don't think. I mean, it's still pretty decent. But I don't need lights on, it's just fog. Alright. So this is kind of our old semi, the L9000, the Jetco egg hopper. Then we have our new semi over here. This is, we parked it in here, we're not really using it much. Maybe if we want to bring in some fertilizer and stuff, but. So that's just sitting in a shed until we get a chance to sell some grain, which won't be anytime soon. Need to build the place first. So now we gotta go hunt down our combine again. Oh, looks like he just made it to the end here. Perfect. Set. The thing I don't like about the hired worker is they don't follow a GPS line. They don't, like the working width on this is 6 meters. They always go less than the actual working width. Maybe that's good, I'm not sure. Actually, maybe we should follow this guy down to the end so he doesn't get stuck coming back. So this fog will probably start lifting in the next 30 minutes here, getting a little bit lighter. It usually lightens up around noon. In terms of the soil here, so none of our fields seem to need plowing. Loading map. So you can see the size of the field that we're working on right now. We're trying to chisel out this section right here, and then we'll come back and finish up this section. We did this field, we did this field. We'd like to buy these two. Then these fields over here are pretty huge as well. So we'll run down to the end of the field here, wait up for our combine, and then, rinse, repeat. At some point, we're either going to have to buy another bin, or we're going to have to switch to our other small bin. I think we have a 10,000. Let me see here. We have, if we go to garage, we have a 10,000 and a 20,000 bushel bin. We'll probably end up buying a second 20,000 bushel. Now that we have an auger that can reach it. Before we were pretty much limited just to a 10,000 bushel bin because we didn't have an auger that can reach. So there was that Farm King, but that Farm King's overscaled by about 100%. The hired worker seems to be marginally improved in terms of intelligence, but it's still pretty basic. So you'll see what I mean. The working width of this corn head is 6 meters, but it doesn't. It's always shorter than that. So these rounds are pretty decent. By the time it gets to the end of it, it's 80% filled. So we can go a tad bit longer, but not much. And each one of these passes is getting longer. At the very end here is the longest point, and that one pass got the tank to 99%, actually 100%. So I had to trim off the back end here before we started doing this. Marky Nix, this is just single player. I wouldn't even bother trying to do multiplayer on this. It's too many things that need to be fixed, and if you try to do multiplayer, you would spend your entire time zipping, unzipping, uploading, downloading, annoyed pretty quick. So single player is the way to go, especially when you're working on a new map. Maybe when you get one area that you're fine with, you can kind of zip that up and play on that area, that section, and then keep building. But pretty much all of my mods in the mod folder are unzipped at the moment. And the nice thing is with single player you get to use course plays, so you can do a lot of your tillage work, field work, planting, and everything really with course plays. So which is nice because if you want to just go and be a spectator, not really an active player, you can just kind of watch the computer do its thing. I was contemplating the idea of doing some time-lapse videos. I haven't really messed around with editing videos too much. To me, I'm not a... You see these channels where they make really great videos. They're enjoyable to watch. My videos are just pretty... in terms of quality, I would say they're pretty shitty. They're just uncut. I just hit record and play, and then it uploads it, and then that's all there is to it. And I don't think I'll ever get to the point where I'm editing my videos, but I think it might be interesting to do a couple time lapse, or at least kind of learn how to do it. I imagine it can't be that complex, but it's just one of those things I don't really have patience or a desire to do, because I don't know, I don't really see a whole lot of value in it. I play the game, I hit record, and then people seem to enjoy it, so I just keep doing that. CD models, yeah. I am still modding. However, a lot of my modding is geared towards kind of working on existing mods, making them a little bit better, fixing errors. That's kind of what I've been doing, really. And then mostly just working on this map. And pretty much all the modeling I've been doing has been geared towards custom map objects. I'm kind of getting away from the equipment modeling just because it's very time consuming, and I've done so much of it over the last two plus years that I'm kind of burnt out, and I'd rather just focus on the map here, because the map needs a lot of TLC, needs a lot of work here. This cart is glitching out so bad. Have I come close to finishing the map? No, not even remotely. I'm not going to even entertain questions in regards to the map being public or private or being released. That's something that may be addressed in the next couple years when it's getting closer to being finished. So in terms of time scale, I would give it like 2 years minimum. So don't hold your breath. But in terms of, if we're going to discuss the map, in terms of things that I've done differently or I've learned from previous projects is, one is I really want to get a map that had the real terrain of the area, the real, what they call it in the forums and threads, or DEM, digital elevation mapping, where you use the actual topography and put it into GE. Um, so that's one thing I wanted. And then another thing I want a huge map. And 4x is fine. The next step up from that is 16, and my other map, Wind Chaser, was 4x. And to me, in terms of roads and driving, it just wasn't big enough. So I pretty much limited the next option to a 16x. And in terms of map making, if you want to make a map based in a real world area, it's actually, in my opinion, quite a bit easier than trying to make a map from scratch out of nowhere. A fictitious region, because it takes a lot of creativity, and chances are you're gonna do and redo a lot of areas because you're just never gonna be happy with it. There's always gonna be something wrong. Where when you build a map off of a real area, you don't have to feel bad if something doesn't look right, because that's just the way it is. So it takes a lot of frustration out of the map mapping when you're making it from a real area. And then when you can overlay the satellite image, and it just goes a lot quicker in terms of roughing in fields, and roads, and whatnot. And so the latest thing that I kind of did with the map is there was always kind of the black abyss on these edges, because we're pretty much right on the edge of this map here. We're not in the middle of the map. And that was kind of bugging me, and then I decided to try to see if I can make the digital elevation map with the extended boundaries. And I thought that was a clever idea. And then lo and behold, I was looking on some threads on FSUK, and there's a couple guys uh, like Bullet Bill and Oxygen David, those guys that make really good maps. Turns out, 6 months ago, they've already done the real DEM for the boundaries. So here I am thinking I had this great, brilliant idea, and then someone, a couple guys, two of them have already done it 6 months earlier. So kind of got a good laugh out of that. But it turns out it was very easy to do. Here I thought I was going to have to do the whole manual thing, which would be impossible because I have no idea how to change an imported object into a field, uh, a terrain shape that you can actually model. Um, so it turns out after a little bit of Googling, It was actually pretty simple. You just find topography, um, data, like a DEM, and then you import that into Blender as a contrast map, and it uses that contrast as a bump, and it actually applies that bump map to the shape and creates terrain. And then voila, you're done. So the one thing that I thought was going to take me like weeks and weeks to do, like literally took me a day. The hardest part was finding, because when I made this map, I took 2 screenshots of the area that was about 8 kilometer by 8 kilometer, and then that was it. However, if you want to go out another, 16 kilometer, basically, because the boundary is 16 by 6, or what is it? I think it's 16 by 16. It's 4 kilometers on either side or something like that, or maybe it's, actually, to be honest, I'm not too sure. I think it's 24 square kilometer that the picture was. Anyway, so then I had to match that up with my current satellite images that I use for the map, and it definitely wasn't like square. So the whole, moral of the story, the hardest part was trying to get my existing textures to line up. And it wasn't perfect, but it was pretty darn close. So we're at 100%, and I think we're gonna get in trouble here because that combine is definitely gonna get full by the time it gets down here. So whatever, we'll deal with it. Am I converting the map over to 19? That's probably a hard no. Because, one, it literally took Giant 6 months, over 6 months, to even figure out a way to have 16 and 4X maps compatible with GE, just to even work on it. And then you'd have to convert all the triggers and all this. It's just not worth it. So it's working great in 17, and it's working great in the Giants editors. So it's going to probably be in 17 for the next 2 years. Well, that will give me a chance to play it, 1, and 2, work on it. So. I'll probably still get 19, but I'll probably pretty much play that stock and with whatever mods are available. I don't really see myself doing a whole lot of converting or playing for it, just because it's too much work and effort, and it's really not even worth it, to be honest. Unless there's like some dramatic changes that really justify the switch. If you're looking for good maps to play, I don't use console, just because I think you're limiting yourself in terms of a playing experience on what kind of mods are available and things like that. And you can't really do much editing. then a lot of the mods that you have for that are you can use for console or there's only so many scripts. I think you have to use the in-game script. So, anyways, I'm not too sure. Didn't I say that about this game? I'm not really sure what you're referring to, but this game is basically identical to 15, and the only reason why I switch over to this is because of the lights shader engine that they changed. That's the only real thing that pushed me over. But I still believe that 13 and 15 with mods were better games, especially with the MR engine and the soil management. If either of those two had the light shader, I'd still probably be playing those games. Oh shit, 97, yep. 99. Oh, he did turn the corner. I'm actually surprised. So this thing, we're gonna shorten this up to like 5'8". Let's see if that's any better. I think in terms of which game I enjoy the best was definitely 13. It had its issues, but I think the content out there and the custom scripts, the soil management and the more realistic engine, that was honestly the bar. And I don't think I mean, this game with the Seasons mod is a game changer, for sure. Without that, this game would be trash. The guys that made this mod, the Seasons mod, are complete geniuses. I'm pretty sure they won the mod contest too. Which makes sense, because it literally changed the game. I kind of feel bad for people that make equipment mods for the mod contest, because generally, if you make a game-changing script like Seasons, like, you have no chance. A piece of equipment, as nice as it may be, it's not gonna really change the game a whole lot. So let's see here, another 6 minutes or so, maybe the vlog will start to lighten up. Oh, getting a little squirrely. Squirrely Dan here. Do I think 19 will have 3D textures? Furrows? No chance. There's no chance. There's no way. I think the terrain and crops will look identical to this. It will literally be 17. It will just, with some minor tweaks, it will, they're just gonna put a 19 on the box. But you never know. I think if they had to change the whole terrain and crop aspect, I don't know how difficult that would be, but everything in this game is based on the simple lines and number blocks. So do I think John Deere will be in 19? Initially, probably not. But I would say in the next 4 years, so they might come out as a DLC. But knowing knowing John Deere, they'd probably want the whole cover and everything like that. And the fact that they're not in it at this point, and pretty much everyone else is, I mean, it's too hard to say. One thing that I do miss is I really do miss the whole soil mod aspect of putting down different types of fertilizer. Um, they really could have. They had so much potential. They could have compounded on that because the way they recognize, you can incorporate your wheel lane script or something like that that keeps track of where you're driving, and then you can. Basically, what I'm getting at is you could have included like a soil compaction as a different layer, and then that had a ton of potential. Then there was buyable objects, field auctions. One thing is the vehicle spline system in 13 was great, and then 15 came around, and then they changed it for only God knows why. It makes no sense, Why fix it if it isn't broken? And so they fixed it, and then they ended up breaking it by trying to fix it. And then they created this indestructible traffic. So that's kind of an example of Giants in a nutshell. They add a few minor things and then they kind of revert, 2 steps forward, 1.5 step backwards, kind of thing. And then in terms of map making, the triggers, like the door triggers, the light triggers, you used to be able to do an animation file. Now it's like all through the XML, and it's a huge cumbersome thing, and I don't know. I think that was kind of a step backwards in terms of animations. But I understand why they did it, because with the animation file, if you were to have one corrupt thing, it would save and override your animation, and then it would break the game, break your map. So it's a lot more footwork, but in the end, it's kind of an insurance. Alright, so we're gonna haul ass back to the farm here. Thanks, Jake. As far as the map, I don't really think I touched the map this weekend. This weekend was kind of working on equipment, like fix the lights on this thing, fix some truck issues, built that 95-foot auger so we could. So it's just kind of little things to make the gameplay a little bit better. Fix some engine configurations on trucks. Converted the trailer. Converted that L9000. Needed some TLC. So basically, it was just kind of a maintenance weekend in terms of modding. Just trying to fix things that had issues. Oop, wrong button. When did I start modding? I really have no idea. I think I made the YouTube channel in April of 13. So I'm assuming around then or a little bit before that. Nice thing is we don't have to turn our truck on. We can just let it empty into the auger here. It's been 84 years. Yes. Perfect meme opportunity. I lost all my 13 mods a long time ago. I think my hard drive got I think my hard drive got corrupt, and that's really what pushed me away from 13 into 15. Is because I lost everything. So that's what really drove me to start fresh in 15. And 15 was great. I learned most of my modding in terms of actual modeling during 15. So I made a lot of mistakes, a lot of overscaled shit. And then I discovered the measuring tool in Blender, so a lot of the things I've made since then have been dimensionally accurate. But started out editing, you know, kind of how everyone does. There is a old Ford truck, like a 250, I think, extended cab, long box, and the thing would squat so bad. You just hook it up to a trailer, and the trailer would cause the suspension to really squat. So that bugged me. And well, when I first started this game, I didn't even know how to put a mod in the mods folder. So that's basically where I started. I started from, you know, as square one as you can get. And then, you know, as they say, the rest is history after, you know, thousands of hours of dicking around. And it's probably easier to learn to mod now because there's so many videos on YouTube. Like when I tried to start, there was nothing, and you know the threads were pretty good for help, but a lot of the things I was having issues with, you know, because pretty much everything I had an issue with, I could just, you know, use the search function and find out someone that's had that issue in the past and, you know, fix it easy enough. But then there's issues where you stumble out a problem that no one's had before, and then you just kind of have to, you know, trial and error. So it is 11:51 and it's still foggy. I would have thought at 45 it would have started to clear up a bit, but guess I was wrong. Oh, Squirrely Dan. But you know, when I started to mod, I was going to college at the time, and so I was pretty much always at my desk and computer, so studying, and then whenever you need a break, you just hop on and try different things. And if I were to start now that I'm, you know, been out of school and working, I think it'd be a lot more difficult. Just because when you're in school, your schedule is very variable. You have big chunks of time, and but it's, you know, like everything else, it's an education, it's a knowledge. Once you have it, you know, unless you don't use it for years and years, you know, you'll always have it. So. And it's kind of a, you know, I never thought this was going to turn into my main hobby, but it really has. You know, there's people that sit, you know, come home, watch TV or watch sports and do that stuff, and then there's some of us that, you know, try to, you know, play engineer when we get home and model, and try to learn a little code. But the aspect of, in terms of actual modding, that I need to improve upon is probably my textures. Texturing to me is like this realm of, you know, just this crazy area of modding that, you know, if you can do manual UV mapping, you know, manual seams and get a model and the geometry ready for texturing. But in terms of like really making great textures with like Photoshop, and that's something that just it's very intimidating for me, and it's especially with the whole spec map and the normal map. And I think in terms of modding, that the texture department is probably the most difficult to master. Not only to master, but to understand. Anyways, when you focus too much on modding, you know, there's days that I wish I never even tried because it's so frustrating. It becomes so frustrating and it consumes you. And you know, when you're new to the game, you know, ignorance is bliss. Like you're just happy with what you have and you don't really care. But as you spend more and more time, you get a little bit more picky, a little bit more greedy, a little bit more, you know, anal on the stuff that you're using because you know things can get improved and you know how to do it. It just takes time and effort. And that really takes a lot of the fun out of the game. Once you reach that threshold, um, you start critiquing not only your work but other people's work, and then you try to, and then you're always, you know, you can't simply just download a mod and use it. You have to dick around with it for hours to get it to how you want it, and then, you know, sometimes it just kind of ruins the game. So that's kind of the dark side of trying to learn to mod, is you become much more unhappy, more pessimistic, I guess. And the game isn't as satisfying anymore. But then there's the flip side. You know, if you don't know how to mod anything and you're frustrated, you know, you see people with cool shit, you know, that's frustrating. I understand that. So there is a flip side to it. You know, if you were to equip yourself with the skills, like you can, you know, this game allows you to literally do whatever you want. I mean, look at the people that drive around in fire trucks and ambulances in this game. Like, what the hell? What are you thinking? But, you know, this game lets you do that. If you want to play make believe, but, you know, I'm sure they're still having fun. To me, I think it's pretty freaking weird, but and when you're learning to mod, you'll soon realize Giants is not very helpful in helping you figure out and troubleshoot issues. That's where the years of experience in, you know, overcoming these issues in the past really help. Because when you go into the log to identify why the hell my thing isn't working or where my game locks up, it's very vague and it isn't very specific into telling you what and where something is fucked up. So Giants kind of could really improve on the, you know, helping us troubleshoot and find where the errors are. What's up, guys? Why does this thing always kind of back out? It does that automatically. I don't know why. Anyways, when we run over to our truck to dump this off, I want to see how much is in the grain bin. A 20,000 bushel bin has, oh shit, we just dropped about 800 bucks on wage payment. This guy's expensive. Is the fog lightening it up? It's noon. It's noontime. Looks about the same. So we got Zombie Dogs and Marco. Ted, it's too early to say. Ask me the question in 2 years. You know, people think I'm exaggerating with that, but no, it'll probably take me 2 years to even get this map close to being, you know, all areas worked on and at some form of completion. You know, maps are really never truly complete. So there, what was it? Was it 15 that I was using a lot of New Holland equipment? Yeah, because 15 is when New Holland came out, right? In the game. So we were kind of looping back around into our New Holland phase. So there's that, you can kind of see that strip there. That's the longest, that was the longest point where this thing kind of angles off and squares up. And then it gets too long to the point where we really can't make around. So once we get to that point, we'll probably square it off again and then go from there. Am I the only one that's having issues with this in-game Brent? This is part of the DLC. I don't think I've ever, but look at this thing. This thing is sliding all over. The Big Bud DLC, I know some people like it. I think Big Buds are the ugliest looking things ever made in agriculture. I don't like anything about them. And then the big equipment that they have with that, like the Seed Hawk and whatnot, the way it folds up, just folds up so bulky. It was like, I don't know, like the engineering wasn't that great, which is interesting because I think the parent company or sister company, whatever it is, the Vaterstad or however you pronounce that, and that's a European thing, and all of their equipment is made to fold up no matter how big into a 3 meter by 3 meter box. So the fact that Seed Hawk, you know, folds up just kind of like, you know, it just doesn't give a shit. Like, we don't care how big we are. You know, we're gonna be in Canada or Montana or Wyoming where there's, you know, we don't have to worry about that kind of stuff. I'm just not a fan of the Big Bud. It was such a random DLC. Like, why do they put Brent in there? You know? And then they had this huge shit spreader, which I have not used. I should probably do that at some point. And then they released the horse DLC for free, which is like probably their best DLC ever, and it's free. I just don't understand. Am I running MR and MR gameplay? Yes, I am. That's probably why the thing is harvesting at 7 miles an hour. Because it's the in-game corn header, which is usually the limiting reagent. Let's go to garage here. So the corn header here is MR, so that's probably why, all these things are MR. Well, except for my mods, obviously. So that's probably why the corn headers I'm able to harvest faster, because I think the in game you can only go like 5 or 6 or something like that. It's pretty slow. Look at this thing. This thing is trash. Giants needs to patch this. So that's our 72 foot. It's actually funny, Mike. You guys don't know Mike, but maybe you do. If you've watched the channel before, he used to be our cart bitch. He was actually the one that modeled this, and then I just happened to finish it, because going on, what, 2-3 years now, he still hasn't finished. Anyways, so, basically, and then I just kind of built this one, the 95. I just extended upon the blender pile. This thing, the arms, they should actually be back 10 feet. But I wasn't going to dick around with that, so. So this trailer has the option to unload out of the front, the back, and both of them. And I'm just using it to unload out of both right now, so it goes faster. Otherwise, I can change this so if I hit U, it's front grain door. So we'll just have it empty out. Oh, looks like it's empty on both. Shit, we need to go find our combine. It's at 93. Oh, yeah, we're not gonna make it. Seriously, 12:08 and it's still foggy. When's it supposed to not be foggy? Lights do nothing. Where is this guy? Wow, he made it pretty far. Come on. Wonder what the fuel level on that combine is. You know, the sad thing is, this field isn't even that big. It's like 160 acres or something like that. And there's people out there that farm, like, I mean, look at that farm on Big Tractor Power. It's like 2,800 acre. One field is 2,800 acres. Do I have some international tractors? No, we do not have any international tractors. I was actually thinking of, I know there were some pretty decent models for some older John Deeres out there. They may need to be redone in terms of like texturing and things like that, but the model itself looks good. So I might try to like start working on some older, some John Deeres for like running our augers and things like that. Or maybe like an old Oliver or a White or some. There's a lot of different tractors out there. I know Polygonish made quite a few of the older tractors, and I think quite a few of them are actually like floating around. Whether they're any good is a different question. Okay. Let's move this thing so it's actually under one of these things. There we go. And then let's have both front. Let's run over here. Let's see how much grain is actually in this thing. So, holy shit, we have 450,000 liters of corn. So we're at 660. So we're coming up on maxing out on the silo. Shit. Now, does that mean 700 and, 78 one of one crop or total? We will figure that out. If it's, if you can fill up each crop with that, that's, kind of stupid, but whatever. So right now, this is a pretty small John Deere that we're using. It's a 6145R. Well, small. It's actually pretty big, but in terms of our equipment, it's small. Do I ever run Case IH? Yeah, I mean, I have. I do. Nothing wrong with it. I mean, I'm running New Holland right now, which is, pretty much the same thing. Just yellow. Yellow and blue. So far we've pulled off about 360 or so thousand liters. The mod that gives us the info on the top left is called Glance. It's a great mod. It tells you kind of what direction you are, like what area you're in. So right now it says we're in the southeast. The F1 meets Field 1. And it kind of tells you what each equipment's doing, what field level's doing. And it's just a real great mod to have, especially if you're doing like multiplayer or single player with course play, things like that. So one thing that would be cool is you can place a crane in GE, but run it in game. So it would be cool if you can use that concept for like irrigation units, because I know there's there's one that you can actually buy as a vehicle and then place it and then like go in your vehicle thing, XML, and configure it. But I think it would be a lot better if you can actually like put it in game and then run it. Like place it with GE and run it in game. Another thing that would be great is if you can like contract your grain, or if you didn't want to fertilize and stuff, you could just hire like a co-op to come out and you go up to your field and it's like, oh, pay whatever amount of money to do everything essentially. Plant it, spray it, harvest it. Okay, so what I'll probably end up doing is I'll probably empty this cart here and then call it a day on the stream, because it's been a fairly long one. thing's getting pretty dirty now. I feel like these fenders are really flared out. Alright guys, so I'm gonna call it a night for the stream, so thanks for watching.